All right, welcome back to another seasonal impressions. This season is winter 2021, and I tried to structure it a little bit over these three facets I thought were the most important to my viewing of these first episodes because I just felt like structure was needed this time around. So the three things I focused on this season were characters slash character designs because this is who you will be spending hours of time with, and to that end, being connected to their style, clothes, or early personality is important to your continued attachment to the show. Next is visuals, and depending who you are, visuals are a very short criteria and could be a long one depending on who you are. Personally, I think that the qualities that make the most sense to me to look for in terms of animation and visuals is anticipation through sequences, which pretty much means that the show does, or you should ask yourself, does each scene create urgency or creatively say something that can't be said in words or through a different medium, or maybe even try to achieve beauty and just aesthetic appeal. And finally, engagement slash entertainment value is the final thing I focused on. The explanation is pretty simple for this one. Could I watch this continually, and would I be content by watching this? And that's pretty much about it for that. So let's just, start with the first one, which is Attack on Titan, the final season. Uh, I watched about 4 episodes of this, and I was not very impressed with what I got out of it, especially because I was really disappointed to see, because I didn't really look at any trailers for this except for like maybe like the trailer we got way back when for the final season. And through my watching of this, I was really disappointed to see that the art direction had changed so drastically, and the black lines on the outlines of like characters and stuff had been had just been totally erased from the show overall, which was kind of a thing I thought made the show really distinctive towards its characters and stuff like that. Because by themselves, the characters in this show, like design wise, are not very memorable and just kind of overlay off the simple like this guy is the tough guy, and you have to remember him by that, or this guy's the main guy, and this guy's the main girl. Like they're not just not memorable, and they don't stick with you as hard as they can, which is why I thought the black outlines really help to make them distinctive in some ways and separate them from the rest of the pack. But now they just look like every other main character from every other show, so like whatever. And also they do this weird. I mean, this happened in earlier seasons. Don't get me wrong; it's not just a Mappa thing. Um, but especially now with this new art director, they do these lines underneath the eyes and the face, like on their neck, that I really cannot get behind. I don't like them at all. It's not really something I think that adds to any tension building or any just facial urgency. It doesn't do anything for me. And through that, I think we're just wasting a lot of time and effort trying to put put so much into the characters themselves, and I know that's definitely the focus because the backgrounds look kind of just bad overall. And like Mappa has been pretty good with backgrounds actually, but I don't think it's that appealing in this show at all because like they put some, I can tell their focus is on the characters and not on the backgrounds. That's what I'm trying to say here. Um, I think maybe episode three, when they're on the train, is the most entertaining episode out of the four I watched, but even that was like fine. That was not even like above average. That was very. It was like sort of a triumph. They achieved building triumph very effectively, but these new characters and stuff like that are not really that great because first of all, the main cast wasn't memorable in the first place, and you think I'm gonna memorize these new characters? There's no way. Um, So like it's a mess for me. I can't really get my head around what exactly I'm supposed to be watching, but according to sources in my group, the show gets better. And I don't know about that one, but we'll see. I didn't like the season 3 part 2 a lot, so uh we're kind of treading on thin ice here with this because like I was not a fan of the old flashback. I'm not a fan of flashbacks in general because they pretty much add nothing to the overall knowledge of the world. in its current state unless it's like super critical. And even if it is super critical, I'd rather just have it be explained through the world itself in the present time, like see the effects of this event that happened long ago. I don't need to be shown that. Just show me what's presently happening, and then I'll figure it out from there. And then it also adds to fan theories, which I think makes it could be a good part of the show if they just held that respect about Attack on Titan. I think that fan theories could be a very interesting part, but no, they went to flashback land and backstory, blah blah blah. I don't really care. Um, I guess the action was good in this, sorta, in the first episode. First episode kind of sucked. It was not that great. Um, but it's what I mean. I'm not expecting a lot out of Mappa. Like people are expecting great things out of Mappa because they make like I don't know Zombieland Saga or Doro Hedoro, but like neither of those shows were memorable in like literally any aspect that I thought really needed to be said. So I don't have high hopes for this season at all. This one, though, I think I can be optimistic about to an extent. We got Mamoru Oshii as the director here, and if you know anything about Mamoru Oshii, he directed Ghost in the Shell and the very art house film I watched very recently, like maybe 3 months ago, Angel's Egg, which was very captivating, and I was really enjoying that more than Ghost in the Shell. I actually like that more than Ghost in the Shell, and it made a lot more sense, right? So I think with his name on a product like this, he's going all the way back to his early days in the anime industry, where I think he worked on Pat Labor, and I think that's what he worked on, Pat Labor, and I'd like to see more, or I'd like to see where he's going with this product because he's directing it, and if anything I can say about him and his products is that he's very good at managing visuals, and I'm not too sure about the characters here because I'm not really a fan of who these characters are, especially like the main girl who's got like a fetish for donating blood and having blood sucked out of her, and then the main girl is like the secondary main girl, I should say, is a vampire, and it kind of just bounces off that dynamic. And I don't know how far that's really gonna last because like I don't know how many situations can we be in until I get tired of hearing this, you know, uh, I guess you could best describe it as a slice of life, but like I have no clue where this is going, but the visual elements are pretty cool. They do some type of like quick cuts with like black and white, and it's a cool, and they're kind of like in a tatami. They go in like three locations, and each of them has sort of an impact to like setting and stuff like that, and building set pieces for later. So I could see this show turning out to be more than what it seems in the first impression, I think. But yeah, I know some people are very happy with this first episode, but I thought it was all right, and I'll give it another go next time I get back to it. This, on the other hand, will not be getting back to. I will not be getting back to this show, and by its picture, I think you can automatically tell what this is, and I I guess the best way to describe it is I mean, this title, Jimihen, pure heterosexual exchange that changes a reserved girl. So, like, um, I mean, what one more is there to say, dog? I watched this. It was not very engaging, I should say. The conceit will probably be repeated constantly, and that's gonna be the end of this. And it's airing on TV, so it's not gonna even be like fruitful when you can just log on to a very uh, scandalous site and get the real experience. It doesn't even make sense to be watching this, especially because there's quite literally no plot here. It's like it's not. I think some people are waiting for the next domestic Nakanajo, but compared to this is just not even going to be close. There's nothing going on here that you need to be worried about. Let's just say that. There's nothing on here that really speaks to like an actual narrative or actual engagement with whoever these two people are. It's just kind of lifeless to me. So it's whatever. This, on the other hand, was pretty fun for its first episode, and I think I'll give it like maybe 3 episodes, depending on how I feel after, because I watched this maybe like a week ago, and this show is called Other Side Picnic, and the conceit of this show is that there are two worlds, and the worlds are other world and this world. And this world is obviously this world, and the other world is also obviously the other world. And the other world is sort of like a monster realm, and then this world is sort of like a trippy human world, I guess. It's cool. It's got some pretty cool visuals, especially in terms of camera angles, because there was this one scene that really stuck with me. It's where we're in an elevator, and then there's like a monster running at the elevator, and it gets really close, and then the elevator shuts to, cut it, and then I thought it was pretty cool. Um, Characters are pretty unmemorable. I think they are not even like cute in terms of like their moe elements. It's I think this show is more meant to be like a serious type of show, but if it really wanted to be like the way, they wouldn't design the characters that way. So I have maybe maybe some concerns in terms of like how these characters are going to turn out in terms of the plot and narrative, because like they make quite literally zero sense with the world they dominate in. Um, so yeah, it's just going to be weird, but the production values are pretty good. I thought the CG was done very well for the monsters themselves in this show, and not much more can be said about really visuals other than like they were engaging to watch, especially there's this fight in the first episode that really takes you by storm, and it does this whole like dream-like feel, but not to the point where it's like an actual Satoshi Kon level, of course, but it's mild dream-like state where you're sort of like fugue, I guess. Um, I guess like it's sort of bland too. The colors are really bland. It's um sort of black and white, but like really bright at some points, and I think that might be a little bit hard to watch, especially if you're trying to keep your eyes on the subtitles. But overall, I think I maybe give this one a couple, maybe like one more episode based on how I feel. Um, yeah, it's all right. Next, suppose a kid from the last dungeon, Boonies, moved to a starter town, and this show is it's all right too. It's another sort of fantasy show, and I've kind of been irked to find a good fantasy show recently, but this is sort of a lighthearted one, and there's nothing wrong with that. Light in Films usually makes these types of shows anyway, so it's whatever. Um, the characters, or the main character himself, is kind of just boring overall because he's just another overpowered MC, and he's not really interesting in any ways right off the bat. Especially because he like literally can deadlift starter or like bosses with his like pinky. So it's not like he's gonna have trouble easing through his starter town at any point. So this is obviously a light novel conceit, and you're not really gonna get a lot out of this as a product because it's just gonna turn out the same way. He's going through like a hero exam and stuff like that. So you already know there's gonna be like a 1v1 tournament or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I guess the girls in this show are like well designed, like I guess borderline average, like maybe borderline above average in terms of their appeal to watch on the screen, because that's really all you're watching this for. There's nothing else. I think that this one and this one were by far the coolest characters, but I don't think they're gonna matter that much when I drop this show at episode 2. Uh, because, it was kind of difficult getting through the first episode because it's really slow and there's a lot of talking, especially in the expository dialogue department. You're really not seeing a lot of progress in terms of just like action happening on the screen, except for like the first 30 seconds where they literally have to show him traveling from the last dungeon to the starter town, and they also have to set up like the backstory as well. So it's not really a great time, but you know, maybe another chance. Geki Idol. I like this. There was, or you know, this type of show, idol shows in general, usually take the first 5 minutes to introduce every single idol of the show, and then get into the actual show. And this show, uh, didn't do that, so I was very happy that I didn't have to sit through a boring introduction. And you know, there was actually moments that I actually cared about our main character because there was reason given and, you know, motif or motives for her built in the very first like 10 minutes of this episode to show you a drive and willingness to become an idol. And I really admired that type of development other than, you know, seeing the basic, this is Asami and she's, you know, blah blah blah. She's happy-go-lucky and has been childhood friends with the main character for how knows long, and she loves butterflies. Yeah, ain't nobody want to see that, buddy. So this is a nice little show, and I think I'll. This is when I first watched this, I was actually thinking about watching the show in full, but then I realized that like I don't actually like watching idol shows in full, and I only like seeing the first parts because those are really the only parts I care about for various reasons sometimes. This show in particular, I want to see the first part just to see if maybe for once in an idol history's life, they center around maybe like three characters and just go with the flow on that and don't expand upon it. And then all the rest of the characters are just supporting cast. But according to this page, every single main character in this is a main character, so it's obviously not going to happen. But a man can hope, can't he? Hood's Entertainment usually does good with their stuff. Especially, I think they made Saikan no Quaiser, which is quite a blast. Next, ReZero Season 2, Part 2. This first episode was abysmal. I hated this. Um, the first 10 minutes of this first episode is this guy, Otto Suwen, crying, or not crying, I guess, like motivating and hyping up our main character, and then him going to Rosewall and also hyping up the second or the next half of the episode, which was so boring. I could not stand watching it because Otto turns into like the biggest plot device ever and starts mumbling about how Subaru is feeling and how he needs to pick himself back up. Pick yourself up, King. You got this. It's so abysmally boring that I just actually wanted to gouge my eyes out because nothing of value could be said about that specific scene in particular because one, nobody wants to hear constantly or have dialogue constantly rammed down their throat instead of seeing elements happen on screen and a plan being put into motion. Because at the end of that 15 minutes, a plan was formulated and I had no idea what they're talking about because I was so bored that all the dialogue flew over my head. So apparently Otto and Subaru are pulling off this master ingenious plan, and I have no idea what it is because it was so boring. I actually almost wanted to go deaf, so I didn't have to hear it anymore. And the second half of the episode is fine, I guess. It's like it's bad, but it's not as bad. Because stuff actually happens. We see like Puck come back, I guess, and like there's like this whole emotional climax and catharsis that Amelia has. But like at this point, I don't really care about Amelia because she's literally just dead. There's nothing to like about her. Um, She's just not very engaging as a character because she's very quiet, she's very reserved, and she doesn't play a very large. She didn't play a large part in the previous season because it was all Subaru just suffering again, and you know it's whatever. Like just nothing happening right now, and that's fine for an early episode. But again, this is just stagnating across what I hated about the first part of the season, I guess. Yeah, it was so boring, so boring. uh I Star Chu halfway through the Idol is a boy band sorta, and I didn't like this show at all. Um, as you can see, these character designs are very basic, and we got a femboy, silent strong type, and happy-go-lucky childhood best friend over here. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that like they're super annoying with their voice actors, and it's already really hard to understand and watch a female-centric idol show, and it's even harder to understand a male-centric idol show. So like if I can't even get behind watching like full 12 episodes of a female one, I can't get behind watching a full male one because usually these ones are done a lot worse because they lack a lot of production values and also appeal from male audiences in general. So I just literally can't be bothered to watch this in full, especially because I have no intention to really care about these characters, especially in their aspirations to become idols. Because I feel like I'd be more attached to you know just the female idol genre in general, not really the male idol. It's not really intended for me anyway. It's intended for females. This specific niche, I suppose you could call it. But I can understand people who like this, but not me. Heaven's Design Team is a rather unique show. I watched maybe like 15, 12 to 15 minutes of this first episode. How long was the first episode? 23 minutes? Yeah, I watched like 12 to 15 minutes of this first episode, and it got rather boring after the first bit because although it's unique as a conceit, and I think that the whole idea of this show, which is basically there's a council of God's disciples, and these are the people that create animals and put them on Earth. And the first bit of this episode is them creating a giraffe by crossbreeding a long-necked deer and a horse. Um, I think that it had a cool concept, but none of the characters are really great. Like, they're super boring, especially in who they are. Like, this one dude is dressed up in a kimono, and he's like, he's only famous because he created the horse, and that's all he does now. So every single invention or every single new animal he proposes is just like a unicorn or a pegasus and stuff like that. And it's so boring. Like, all the other characters have this unique quirk like him that are only good at making one thing, and there's nothing beyond that. And I feel like there's very little room for engagement in terms of conceptual like ideas to be built here. Especially because it's just going to be the same gag over and over of how they probably have an argument about what specific traits to put on this animal, and by the end it'll be an animal that we already know, like the giraffe or a koala, you know. And so like you could watch this maybe. I don't think you'll be entertained by it on any level, but maybe you'd find enjoyment watching this with some sixth sense of like um I don't know, because animal cruelty is in this. They like literally kill animals on screen, but no blood or gore or anything. They just kill them. LBX Girls is essentially this show I watched like maybe 2 seasons ago, an episode of, and how do I explain this? Like the first episode, I mean, by this little picture here, you think it's about cute girls flying in like jetpacks and stuff. But the first 5 minutes of this episode has nothing to do with them at all. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. No, none of these characters you see right here are on screen in the first 5 minutes. And I have no idea what that's supposed to tell you about the show. Actually, I know exactly what it's supposed to tell you about the show. It means that literally they have no idea what they're doing. Because the first 5 minutes is a dogfight of like a bunch of military generals versus like some just other military group, and it's just like they're shouting orders at each other, and the dogfight is super slow and super boring. Like you have that thing where only one plane is moving and the other planes are like just standing still, and it looks so awkward that I just stopped watching because I just didn't like it. Of course, like with a card like this, I was expecting maybe something more I don't know, engaging in terms of the characters, especially because that's literally going to be the only appeal of this show other than jetpacks and girls. But different. I don't. Just no, no. Bad introduction. Show by rock stars. This first episode was weird, like really weird. Uh, I can't really tell you I was that impressed with what I saw here. I mean, it's not weird in the sense that like none of it makes sense because it like sort of made sense in a sick and twisted way because like I guess the entire like conceit the show's running off of is like nothing makes sense to an extent, but it has a grounded nature to it as well. So it's kind of conflicting here. And like visually, it's a little bit too ambitious with what it's trying to do, and I feel like the production values will definitely drop off if this amount of work is being put into it at the beginning of the show, because expectations are being set way too high for this. Um, and I have no idea when it's going to drop off, but I can tell you it's going to drop off real soon because they put an absurd amount of work into this first episode with a bunch of different color work that looks really visually pleasing to watch, but it literally makes no sense with the plot being all over the place because they literally are fighting and race. It's like they do initial D, they fight like a giant uh speaker box or like a boom box. They fight a giant speaker box. They're like doing a battle royale against another idol group in the initial D race, and they're also playing their music instruments using the power of friendship to defeat the speaker box. Like, I have no clue what's going on, and I don't really want to know what's going on at all. Um, yeah, no, I mean, if you're into that, I guess watch it, but no, not that's a no for me. Hortensia Saga is a fantasy series, and it's all right, I guess. I guess it's in terms of characters, it's nothing special. We got the classic light novel protagonist who needs to avenge his father or whatever, like blah blah blah, no one cares. And then we got his female apprentice that will do anything he says because she's a willing and eager child, like go lucky, gotta please him or whatever, blah blah blah, no one cares. And then we got this weird plot where it's like suit like warring nations and stuff like that, but it's not really engaging at all. We got Eye Patch Man as like a subordinate, being like the classic mentor trope, I guess. Like he's a mentor. He's like an obvious superior, but he's a mentor at the same time because the young guy is the leader, and like it doesn't really. I mean, it correlates because they do some pretty alright background story, but like I don't really care about background story. I just really wanted to watch a good fantasy series, and like this sort of scratched it to an extent, but I think maybe after the second episode, I'm probably done with it. There's not really a lot of value to really say it in terms of like entertainment value I'm getting out of it. Like let me think for a second because I felt like there was urgency built in what they were portraying on screen, especially because like uh they do have some pretty good production value in terms of like just like overall carnage, and they did like a little battle scene where a bunch of people died and it was all right. They did a pretty good job of filling in the blanks there and not leaving like a bunch of people like super undetailed and stuff. There was detail there. But I'm not too sure about how I'm gonna like the characters or continue to watch the show because they're super just like generic and stuff like that. It's not generic to a point where it's like SAO level, but it's not also like unique enough to be considered something next to like Cautious Hero where it's like a little bit above generic, but it's just still treading the line. It's like in between that. And uh it was all right for a first episode. I just don't think it'll hold up. What's next? ABC Working Diaries, a little short 3-minute episode. And I couldn't even make it to 3 minutes because it's just not worth my time. Like I'm not gonna watch this show. It's just like a cute little like office show. There's nothing really to say about it. Um, like the amount of people that are gonna watch this is very negligible, and the amount of enjoyment you get out of it will be very specific because this is, I mean, as you can see, like this plus 3 minute episode means it's gonna be like close to like commercial level quality. Like you're just gonna be watching a commercial for like 3 minutes every time you pick up an episode of this, and that's kind of what I feel this is going to give you in return for your watching of this. Yeah, that's about it. Uh, 2.43 Saiyan High School boys volleyball team is just budget haiku with worse characters, worse production value, and a worse story. And I only got that from watching half of the first episode. So basically, we got two kids that are separated at kindergarten, best friends, and they make a promise to each other that they'll never forget each other. And then here comes high school, and transfer student is actually main character's best friend who said he would never forget him, and then guess what? He turned his best friend that he never said forget each other forgets him and is this Sasuke type of guy, super silent and practices on his own. He's like, yeah, oh, did you show up to practice? Yeah, and I practiced by myself. No one was there. He's like super single-minded and individualistic, and he turns into like like he turns his back on society, like, yeah, I live in a society you just wouldn't understand, blah blah blah. No one cares. And the main character is a dunce. He's one of those kids that always yells because he's so obsessed with yelling and wants to make up with his friend, and he's confused as to why he's forgotten. And it's just gonna set up for some idiot plot where they probably go on a redemption arc because one of them broke their legs or something. Who cares, right? Um, yeah. Well, I mean, what more is there to say, dog? I mean, they literally have an American looking guy voicing a Japanese guy. I don't know how much more there is to say about this product other than that. I mean, you got David production behind it, but like, you really, they're working on Cells at Work, probably a new JoJo season, and you're gonna pick up this as a product that you like from them. Not very appealing, I'll tell you that. Um, yeah, and like without the creator, without the visuals of like JoJo or Cells at Work, like no one's gonna watch this because that's literally the appeal of David Productions most of the time. They have some really cool visuals, but this is really bland and really dried up, as I could best describe it. It's really, when I say dried up, I mean that like all the colors are washed out, and it feels like they're pulling a, uh, what's that one movie I watched that I hated? A Frag Time. They're pulling a Frag Time, because all it's going for that thing where like they leave the edges of the screens like washed out and like sort of like creaked in and stuff like that, and it's not very good to look at. I don't like it. And no, just no from me. So I'm a spider. So what? This is the newest addition to the Isekai genre, and it's about a girl who gets isekai'd as a spider. And in the first like 1 minute, we're given like some of the worst CGI spider I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not to say that like CGI spider is common. I'm just saying that it looks terrible. Um, you know, you really, what am I really saying here is that you're trusting Milpense Milpensi, I don't know how you pronounce it, to give you a good CGI product when these are the guys who gave you Berserk 2017 and 2016. I mean, what more is to say after that? Like, I know there's time for redemption, but this is definitely not it. This is not a redemption product for them. Uh, there, you will get burned if you watch this product because I don't think there's anything of value you can get out of another MMORPG online, uh, gaming isekai. Like, there's nothing you can get. Like, in the first 5 minutes, we're discussing MP and skill points already. Like, I need this skill point, and look at my cool new ability. Blah blah blah. I don't care. No, this is not the time for redemption for Millipense. And if they need to do some CG, pick a better product because it's definitely not this. Promised Neverland season 2 is a show that came out this season, and first episode was good. I thought it was good. Um, Constantly moving. I really liked how there was like a one spare moment where we spent some time to really digest everything that happened in the previous season. A little bit of flashback here and there, but like very little exposition given and more focus on moving past those elements and really adventuring to a new chapter in the story, which I thought was more than I could have asked for in a first episode, especially after I watched everything this season. Um, this is kind of a, you know, wake up call for the rest of the shows for me that I completed a first episode of because this one was good. But I have a few qualms with it in terms of like how dark it is because in some scenes it is so dark, and I don't know if it's just my monitor, but it's so dark that it's very hard to figure out like if they're intended to be that way or it's just like me because I can't really figure it out. There are parts where the trees just like look exactly like the background darkness, and I can't really tell if they're trees or not because there's like random bundles of leaves just hovering above, and I really just think there should have been a lot more like outline on the trees, and it kind of bothered me. But I know that's kind of like a really specific qualm. But, the rest of the characters and rest of the episode flowed along nicely because, there was action actually in the first episode, which is great. I love seeing action in the first episode because I actually have something to watch. Uh, they did a lot of sort of, I guess, tension building in this and sort of like build up for future set pieces, and I think that was effectively done to a point where I actually wanted to watch the next episode, but I had to comb through everything else. So I'm like, all right, I'll put that off for later. But I'm excited for the next episode when I do watch it. Um, of course, like we're kind of in a rut right now, or I'm in a rut right now because I wasn't really impressed by the first season's midsection. I think quite a few people were also not impressed because it was very slow, and I feel like if this show wanted to succeed now in the second season, I think a quality of like a 6 out of 10 consistently rather than a 7 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10 back to a 6 out of 10 is not really the path they want to take. I think more so um like a consistent amount of quality is good enough for me. And I heard like in the later episodes here they veer off the manga, which I don't care about because I don't read the manga. People are mad about, so we'll have to see what's going on there, but so far, good first episode. I thought that everything was done pretty nicely, and I was entertained, finally, by a show, uh, to a very, I guess, good extent. Idols is not a good show. Not a good show. Uh, First 30 seconds of the show is, again, explaining every single character and what they are like. Uh, Shiori is a or is a academic student who gets into idling because she wants to get an extracurricular, blah blah blah. It's like that, and they don't even bother to narrate it this time because they don't even care. And I feel like at the when it gets to the point where you're just putting up a text box for the viewer to read while reading the subtitles, it's very ineffective and it doesn't make any sense. They must have thought we're cutting off time, we're doing something different. No, you pick one so I don't have to read two things at once. I mean, this is for a Japanese audience, don't get me wrong, but like even they have to focus on two things at once. They literally have to listen to them talk and read who they are on screen. It's very ineffective at conveying information, especially because, you know, I literally don't read kanji, so I just can't. But I already knew what it was because, I mean, why would you put a random text box above a person's head with exclamation marks and hearts above every single text? Because, I mean, it's obviously to explain them. And also, it's done in this really weird CG. I think they're trying to bank off the Hololive movement right now because all the models are pretty much Hololive characters, or Hololive like sort type of CG models, and they don't work well with this 2D setting at all. They don't work well, and it's pretty jarring to watch because like none of the characters really speak to me in terms of just like overall cuteness or anything. They just seem really basic and stale. But I guess that's kind of one of the downsides to Hololive models. It's that like although you get some more really snappy movement, I guess, you lack sort of the care and, authenticity given to drawn or, digitally animated models, other than having like a person behind that model. Because I don't know if there's people behind these models specifically, but they do act in like very human ways. So I have a hard time believing they are literally just CG products. So yeah, CG AI, I don't know what they are, but show's not good anyway. Like it's just another idol show. And like um all of them are super, I think they're brand new voice actors or something because they just sound really bad. And if they're not brand new voice actors, it's just not their most competent work. They're really obnoxious. Next show is a show that I did not like at all, and I wanted to drop after. Actually, let me see how far I got. I didn't even mark it, but whatever. I'm just gonna say exactly what I said in my comment. This is basically Smash Bros. The anime, except that we're not covering really Smash Bros. And it's about this really otaku depressed guy who's the top player in Japan for Smash Bros. And he gets sucked into the void of becoming a talking machine in this first episode, describing every single character that we're gonna come to see in this show. This show decided to spend its first 10 minutes just talking about characters in his class. Like this is Butthead McGee, and he's been the high school jock for blah blah blah, and he makes me sad because he gets all the girls. No one cares. I hate my life. And then this is the class president. She's the coolest cat on the block. She's gorgeous and she's super academic, and she makes me hate my life as well. And that is the show. That is the show we're watching right now because we have nothing better to do except rip off the Nintendo Switch and try to make a Smash Bros. By the way, like if you think this is actually going to be a serious show that you should pay attention to, don't. It's not. The main character is abysmally pathetic, like actually pathetic in every single way, shape, and form. His character is lifeless, and not in lifeless in the way that like the one dude from Bunny Girl Senpai is, because that guy is like sarcastically lifeless. This guy is just actually no emotion, no heart given to any single of his statements. And whether the intent was to not give him that much heart, it just doesn't feel like he's heartless either. It just feels like he's nothing. There's nothing behind this character you can get attached to or in any single way. And he's basically Kirito but sad. That is his black hair, classic light novel protag. Except it's not spiky or whatever. And in terms of like my overall enjoyment of that, like the first 10 minutes I watched, nope. That's all I had to say. Nope. Next, the hidden dungeon only I can enter. First things off the bat, these character designs on the girls in this show, oh my lordy, oh my lordy, they are very nice. They are very nice to look at. Um, I usually would usually with these types of shows, um, the girls are the only main facet you're paying attention to, and that is exactly what's happening here. This is basically a show about him trying to become a hero, and then all these girls are like his harem and stuff like that. And it's engaging, I guess. Maybe get past 2 episodes until I'm bored. But maybe more. I have no idea. But every single girl in this show is very engaging, and every shot caters to that. Like it'll give you like I don't know how to explain this. Like every shot is catered around portraying the main character in the background of a girl's like one of their body parts in general. Um and hey, that if you like that shameless type of I guess content, go for it. I sure did. This first episode was a banger. I got to see tons of development and plot, quote unquote. I guess the concept is alright too, but you don't really watch the show for that. You just watch it for I think we both know what's going on here. It's a light novel adaptation. But, some light novel adaptations do have potential to excel. Um I don't know if this one's going anywhere, but hey, uh could go somewhere. I'll tell you that. Could go somewhere. Wixos Diva Live is a show I think I will be looking out for this season. And this is basically Yu-Gi-Oh! 3v3 but with idols in a cyber world. Not cyberpunk, but a Tron Legacy type of cyber world. And I liked it. I really thought they embraced the whole idea of a, sort of battle arena, and they made idols seem cool in this show, especially because they're literally battling it out for pride or um like the enjoyment of being an idol, I guess, but the characters are just dumb. I don't really like them. They have nothing that I can really attach to in terms of just relatability or just like drive in general. Their motive is that they like to be idols and they want to share their happiness with everyone, and that's kind of just the basic like ground level type of analysis we're getting here. And it's whatever. I really thought this was a cool concept in general. I have no care for the characters. I just care about the concept. And the concept is fun enough that I will probably give it maybe like another episode, full attention, and I will probably maybe enjoy it if it doesn't go on to be a little, the next episode being like just like a talking for like 20 minutes. Because the first episode did have sections where they were just talking and like doing nothing, but then there were parts of the episode where action happened and I was actually impressed, but with everything flying across my screen, and it's kind of like a cool like battle, I guess. And the visuals are pretty cool because you got this whole Tron Legacy aesthetic going on, and people are just like holding lights in the background. It's sort of like blue versus red, I guess. And it's fun. I'll tell you that. I had fun. But that's it for that one. Project Scarred Praetor no Kizu. It's basically cool visuals, I'll tell you that. They take like photorealistic backgrounds and then overlay it over the characters. And it kind of works. I thought it was gonna be weird in the first 15 minutes, but I watched the full episode and it actually grew on me after that. Um, I don't feel attached to the plot or, narrative at all. Like it just literally will make no sense to me, and I'm like fine with it for now, but I will drop it in the future if it just gets too unbearable to just hear them talk about Cerberus or, just all these Greek mythological creatures or whatever. Because like there's like a lot of moving parts. Like there's this idiotic police force name with like three S's in it and like an I or something. It's like the International Social Special Sporce. I don't know. It's just like three S's. And oh wait, it's right here. Public Security Special Service. Great name. PSSS. And also like there's like this underground group that's sort of like also in the plot, and then there's the characters are just dumb straight up. I liked the main dude who was introduced. He was pretty cool, but I don't like any of the other supporting cast members so far. They're just unbearable to watch, especially because they got that whole little brother voice going on, which is really annoying. And I'm not a fan of it because it's really whiny, and I don't really like whiny characters because they're just hard to listen to, especially like in terms of getting stuff done. Because I know these first few episodes is just gonna be the whiny little brother complaining that his big brother died, and that's what happens at the end of first episode. Like his literal big brother died, and I know that in this next episode his little brother is gonna be whiny the entire episode about having to train this newbie, and I'm not sure I could bear that any longer. But the visuals were cool. I just don't know if they're worth me watching it further because visuals alone can save it, and I don't think it can. But yeah, that's it. Skate Infinity is the newest original Bone show, and to that end, it was fun. I liked it. I don't think the characters are engaging at all or cool. I literally don't even know their names and don't really care to remember them. This guy is blue guy because his hair is blue, and this guy is red guy because his hair is red. And that's how I'll remember them. And there's several other characters with different colored hairs, and thank God because I'll just refer to them as green-haired guy and darker haired blue guy is if it's gonna come to that. But dude, um these visuals and animation really strike a sort of trigger type of strand with me here. It's really nice to see um I guess these transitions that they do in the show where it's like they're skateboarding and then it's also like it cuts to what their ambitions lie to. Like the blue guy, he used to be a snowboarder and that was his ambition in life. And when he transferred over to this like I guess Okinawa, I don't know where they are. They're like in some place. Um but the scene at this place in Japan is skateboarding. So like he tries to convert his ambition of snowboarding into skateboarding, and there's this really cool transition where he's like going down a mountain and then he it transitions to him skateboarding on like a similar like road, and they do a lot of cool uh I guess brightly colored cuts, and it's not garish at all. It's just good fun, I should say. It's just back to good old good fun. And I think that, people will enjoy this first episode, but I don't know how long it'll hold up in terms of me liking these people because, how I don't know how far skateboarding can go as a concept before I get bored of it, and it's not really that great. In terms of like what exactly happened in this first episode, because all it was is really a race, and I don't know how many more races I can watch before I'm really bored of the concept. Because that was what my friend had a problem with, and he said he didn't really like the show at all because he thought it was just gonna be a show about like tricks and stuff like that, and like cool skateboarding tricks and like a competition to do the greatest trick, and then instead he was disappointed to find out it was just gonna be a racing show, like them racing other people and like getting better. And that's the impression I got from it. I don't know if it turns into that. That's just the impression I got and my friend got, but I'm a fan of I'm like sort of into this show. I liked it, but he wasn't. But we'll have to see where it goes. I thought it was pretty good for what it provided as a visually entertaining show, especially in terms of like its pacing. I think that it had a really good pace set right from the beginning. It takes time to dwell on aspects that happen in the first like 5 minutes, and it doesn't really dump anything on you. It just keeps on moving. There's really nice flow to and natural state of events. But for real, I think that maybe this might be my second pick for the season. to watch. Uh, because like it's just by far probably the one of the more cooler shows visually, I should say. Dr. Amune, Mysterious Special Disease Specialist, is not a show I would recommend in any fashion because it's just one of these. I mean, I've seen a million of them at this point, but like this show is about like a doctor and his apprentice curing mysterious diseases, as literally the title tells you. And this first episode was so laughably, uh, just absurd, but not in the sense that like it's visually absurd. It's just writing. Its writing is absurd because the plot of the first episode goes: girl cries out or has a disease that makes her cry out. Soy sauce, mayonnaise, ketchup, like condiments, different condiments, and it's due to her mother growing incredibly obsessed with her acting career as a or as a child actor who cries. And I just thought that was so stupid. Her mother basically abandons her in a lot of aspects because she can't cry anymore. And then there's a scene in the episode where she's literally like shaking her in the middle of an interview to cry on camera, and it's so disgustingly obnoxious that I just can't even bother watching anymore after this. Like, really? Like I don't know. There's just nothing here that I'm really intertwined with, especially like how ugly all the characters look, especially the main guy. He's totally lifeless. Just another black-haired protagonist who thinks he's better than everyone. Um, and the main guy, other main guy who's a blonde-haired, he's basically, um, I don't know how to say it, like some foreign laid-back dude who really doesn't care about getting stuff done, but then has a nihilistic side when things get rough. And then the show's just gonna revolve around them doing that stuff, and it's gonna be boring. I can tell you that. I mean, no, it's not gonna be boring. It's just gonna be obnoxious. I don't like that. Uh, Cells at Work Code Black was a show I watched full episode, and I still have a problem with the Cells at Work series for the exact same reason I'm dropping this show. It's basically they spend so much time in the episode explaining different parts of the human body, which is essentially their conceit, but I think it could be done a lot more effectively if they just drop the whole aspect of taking like an entire 30 seconds to explain what hemoglobin are and why red blood cells are red, and instead just literally show it on screen happening and not really just give a textbook definition of what hemoglobin are with narrator, with text, and with a cutaway from an event I'm actually caring about. Because they do that. They essentially, in the middle of like an event I'm caring about, they just cut to like, this is a virus, and you gotta know exactly what this virus is and how it operates. And I don't really like that. Just tell me what it does and what parts of the or like show me what parts of the body it invades and how dangerous it is in the context of the show, and not in terms of a Google search, because that's what exactly I'm getting, and I have a problem with that. And until the show stops doing that, I don't feel like I'd ever pick up this show again. And essentially like all the characters are just reversed versions of themselves in the original series, which is like all right, I guess. Like I'm not really a big fan of the characters in the original series anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. What's next? Skate Leading Stars is basically uh Boys on Ice, except that it's not Yuri on Ice, and it's also sucks. This show sucks. Um, I don't know. What do I have to say about this? What did I even say in my comment on this show? I got 3 minutes in. There was crying 1 minute in, and a tragic backstory 2 minutes in. There's your explanation of what this show was. Horimiya is one of the most popular shows this season. It's a Cloverworks production brought to you by Bunny Girl Senpai and Promise Neverland. Actually, Cloverworks is doing 3 shows this season. They're doing Wonder Egg Priority, Neverland, and Horimiya. And we'll get to Wonder Egg Priority in a second, but this is Horimiya for a second. And this show is garbage. I was not impressed by this first episode, despite what people were hyping it up to be, because a lot of people think this is going to be great. And I looked at the staffing for this, and I can tell you, this is just going to be another tearjerker where it's literally enforcing you to um there's going to be like an emotional climax. There's going to be some losses here and there between the triangle or the dodecahedron of love. And I guess who's writing it? Guess who's script writing this? Your Lion April script writer, or yes, he the guy who did the Your Lion April script is writing this. You already know it's going to be literal garbage, like actual garbage. There's no chance I will actually like this show because he's writing it. And hold on, let me pull up who this guy actually is and show you that he actually did write the Your Line April script here. Hold on. Yes, here we go. There. Shigatsu Wakimi no Uso. Takao Yoshioka is a man who is obsessed with sad shows that have really sappy overtone and really tear-jerker and garbage. And he doesn't do it well either. If you want a romantic comedy, watch Karikano. Not gonna happen, buddy. Not watching Horimiya. Not giving in to your ritual of horrible writing. I guess I could go into like what this show exactly is. It's basically I don't even want to go into what I'll just go into what the episode was I watched. Basically, this dude on the left is a misunderstood guy. He gets invited to her house because he brings home her little brother, and then she doesn't recognize him because he's like got ear piercings and stuff. And finally, she learns to, or they both begin to have like feelings for each other. And then like this guy steps in, purple hair guy steps in. He's like, "But I like her," and he's like, "Oh, okay, well you can have her." And she gets mad because he said you can have her. And then she's like, "Well, okay, I don't. I said no to him because I actually like you." And then he's like, "Wow, you actually do? That's crazy." And then there's crying because why not? Crying in the first episode, love it, love to see it. This what Takao Yashioka is at it again. Just could not help himself with crying in the first episode. Could not help himself. Like seriously, guys, we really doing this right now? Also, the character designs are just why? Just why? This guy, the purple guy, you know those kids in middle school that wore bright neon green Adidas and like those like fuzzy armbands on their hands? Not the stuff you play basketball with where it's like covering up your whole arm. It's just those fuzzy armbands that he wears in school, by the way. He unironically wears a dress shirt, rolls up the sleeves, and wears those fuzzy armbands. This is that guy, the guy in the purple hair. And you cannot tell me this is real life. I'm not in a simulation. I fully believe I'm in a simulation after I watch this show because I just cannot believe how idiotic they assume I am. I guess they don't assume they're not making this show for me. They're making this show for losers that actually like Your Lie in April because like dude, they're not going to notice this type of garbage. I'm the guy that notices this garbage because I'm attentive. But seriously, like, this is what we're dealing with here. And also, like, this is just totally generic. They can't really make this girl outlandish in any way. Otherwise, there's no relatability to her character. If they gave her green hair, that's a done deal. No one likes green-haired waifus. No one. They have to give her either black hair, brown hair, or, blonde hair because that's literally that's their fighting ground for this type of show. The black-haired protag has to go with the brown-haired protag, and that's it. That's all you got. It's garbage. Idly Pride is basically Mai Sakurajima from Bunny Girl Senpai and also the main dude from Hyoka make a idol show, and it sucks because, dude, this character design is I don't know. I don't think I watched this with my friend and he said he didn't get it. I thought the character design for this girl looked exactly like my Sakurajima from Bunny Girl Senpai, and also the dude from Hyoka looked exactly like this guy. I couldn't. And also the first 30 seconds is them showing 10 idols. 10. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 idols to you. Seriously. Cannot be serious with this. I just lost for words at why we even decide to do this. There's just no reason to. I mean, merchandising is not even going to be an issue because no one's going to buy this unless. I mean, obviously there's going to be people buying this because there's always people buying stuff for idol shows like this. But come on, I can't keep track of 10 characters like this, 10 main ones. No, that's a no for me. Kimono Jihen had a fine episode. I think that the concept is kind of dumb. We're up to another like Demon Slayer type of show where you're just gonna hunt different types of monsters. Like this is gonna be a monster of the week type of show. I don't think. I think, and then there's an overarching plot of who are these guys' parents, and then by the end, you'll probably see a giant climax where it's just like, oh my God, his parents were the demons all along. No way. And then it's going to be like that, and then he eventually goes back to the guy who took care of him, and it's going to be wow, crazy. And also, I'm not going to like this show because Natsuki Hane is voice acting this show, and if you don't know, he did the voice acting for Kaneki Ken for Tokyo Ghoul, and I find that character absolutely just like utterly abysmal in terms of voice acting. He's so whiny and pathetic. I just can't stand listening to this specific voice actor in particular, so it's just not going to be a fun time for me. And I think maybe like I'll get through halfway of the next episode before I tap out. That's my tap out. And of course, why wouldn't he be playing a white-haired protagonist? Because, whatever. I guess should I go into like anything in the show? I feel like okay, the only reason I even completed this first episode was because of its visual elements alone. There's this scene in the forest where they put a lot of unnecessarily detailed set pieces into play. Like this flower I saw was incredibly specific in its movement, in its I guess appeal in terms of just like it was like a massage to my eyes, I guess you could say. It was gorgeous to look at, absolutely gorgeous. Um, and that's pretty much the only reason that I watched this. I mean, but other than that, like look at these names. Like I what is that? Like I have no clue. It's not a comedy at all, and these names are intentionally like that. So I don't know. There's nothing. I don't know. It's whatever. It's nothing special. X-Arm is also nothing special. Uh, this show essentially took like a weird approach to how it's set up, setting, and stuff like that. Because like it's like an isekai, but he gets transported to like 2020. Uh, and also they have a weird use of CG in the show, like a very weird use. So imagine this, right? There's a setting, 2D setting, and then a 2D character, right, in the foreground next to a fully 3D, unbelievably like super obviously 3D model right next to him in the foreground, just side by side. And they're having a conversation, and it makes literally zero sense in terms of consistency. And I have no clue why that was a stylistic decision. Even if it was a stylistic decision, I just cannot get behind why that was even a thing. And I just dropped it. And just like after that, after watching like 3 more minutes of that, I was done. I just could not. I just could not fathom what wavelength they were operating off of because like what are you operating off of? I can't tell you. Like, I'm trying to get into the director's head here of why he decided to choose. Is it a guy? Yeah, it's a guy. Why he decided to choose to overlay a 2D model, 3D model, put them side by side and have them have a conversation. Like, what? I mean, I guess the intent was to essentially make him like 3D throughout the entire series and then keep him consistently 3D, but it doesn't really make sense. Like why? There's no reason to. Next one, Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. The show was good. I think it's a very cool show that essentially scratches my itch for the fantasy show that I wanted this season. And I think that I will definitely give this show 3 episodes at the bare minimum, even though it's an isekai with like your classic otaku being transferred into a whole new world. But this is actually a cool setting and also a cool sort of situation he's put in. It's not your like typical idea. He's actually just literally reborn as a baby. And you get to see him like gain an understanding of the world through his years growing up. Even though he's like a 34-year-old guy in a baby's form, he literally just has the intellect and drive to do something. And it's not like your basic protagonist either, who's just like, I'm gonna save the world. No, he's just gonna like, he wants to just understand the world around him and sort of get a better feeling and do something with his life instead of spending it watching and doing like dating sims and stuff on his computer. And so I like the concept more so than anything I watched in terms of the isekai genre this season or the previous season. So I'm actually excited to see what's going on here and, what could possibly come out of more episodes because there's potential here to do some pretty cool stuff, I think. Especially because there's like in the first episode there was no like antagonist introduced or any like major power introduced. It's sort of ambiguous and it's sort of left for you to, ponder because they're the hints of it, but it's not like sort of like cliffhangered or anything. There's nothing like that. It's pretty clean in its visual department. Like everything is really smooth and laid out for you to like understand and gain a grasp of what type of environment we're dealing with here. And hey, it was pretty cool. And cool thing is this is a brand new studio. It's literally their first work ever, so I was pretty impressed. I checked this because I didn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, this is their first product ever, and I had no idea who's on the cast either because I literally can't tell you who's on this cast. I don't know any of these guys. I'm pretty sure the art director, no, never mind. It's another show that did the art direction I was talking about. But this show is something. There's something here. Compared to that, there's nothing here. In Azure Lane, Bisoku Zenshin. There's nothing here. In the first 30 seconds, we're seen doing a wake up for main character Pink Girl, and she's like already undressed. So it's like you already know where this is going, dog. This is gonna be a show for specifically Azure Lane gotcha players. It's not really anything anyone else cares about unless you're like into it. I don't really. I've never been into Azure Lane in general. Like I watched maybe like 1 episode of the previous season. There was like another Azure Lane. Yeah, it's this one I think. And I didn't even get through 1 episode of it. So like for me to get through an episode of this, it was only 8 minutes actually. So like no point. Uh, yeah, nothing happens here. It's just them going to school and like doing cutesy stuff that, I'm not really a fan of. It's nothing. It's just a bunch of nonsense that's gonna happen. It's only gonna appeal to Azur Lane players or like very specific people who are in the mood for this type of show. Wave, Let's Go Surfing! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Is a show about surfing, and visually the show is so bright. It was blindingly bright. You got here's how I saw it, right? You have bright blue waves, which is a light on top of bright blonde hair on top of bright yellow sunlight. And you get or bright yellow to white sunlight, right? And it's just blinding. These colors are just don't go or don't contrast and don't blend at all. Like color wheel was not present here. We got to go back to basic intro to art here when we're talking about the color wheel, because these colors just don't even compare, or are comparatively just so awkward together. And I don't really see myself enjoying this show if it's gonna have this sensibility to it. Like even past that, right? Its characters are just really basic. You got the dude who saw a really cool guy surfing, and now he vowed to be the best surfer on the planet. And probably by the end of the series, he's gonna win the surfing competition. Blah blah blah. No one cares. And that is gonna be the show. And I'm not a fan of sports animes in general because they usually end up the same way. And none of its characters are really fun or, unique in any way to make me want to watch it. So like it's whatever. This show, you could just watch Masaki Yuasa's surfing movie and get a better experience out of a surfing product in the anime industry. If you just really wanted to watch something of the surfing, uh, I don't know, genre, I guess, watch Masaki Yuasa's movie. Here is the best show of the season. Well, hopefully best show of the season, which I think is Wonder Egg. Wonder Egg is a show from Cloverworks, third show they're making this season, and to that end, this show is awesome. It is that first episode was incredible. I thought so much surrealism and sort of a dreamlike state was emphasized here that it just became a reality, and reality meets fantasy is just so interesting to me, especially in the way they did it. They did really sharp and quick cuts that really told a lot in very few and centralized sections of the episode. And they told such a very I don't know, menacing story through very nonchalant means, and it felt so just like impactful the way they did it. And especially our main character, whose character design is on point, just knocked out of the park with this one. I think that she is very well realized as a character in the world she dominates, and her clothing and hair and, eyes just represent so much in terms of the this sort of sphere she dominates. I think there's so much to be said about her, the world, and the visual elements and the direction of this series. So much through just the first episode. I can't gush about this one enough. Um, and I don't even want to go into specifics of this because I think it's just best experience, just blind. Um, but really, like, there's just so much effort being put here, and you can tell there's a lot of effort being put into this episode, and a lot of effort just in general towards the general uh, ideas being laid out here. Like, there's stuff for everyone to enjoy here. Like, normal audiences love this, and then also intellectuals love this as well, because there's digestibility on both ends. You can completely feel content watching this through means of I don't know, just you just feel content with the motion and the uh con consistency to an end here because you feel like it's building here. There was an arc here in the animation department. There was arc to the narrative of this specific episode, and like I feel so impressed on literally every facet I felt really needed to be had in the first episode, and I feel really confident that the show is going to be turning out very well, based on this first episode. And last season I was correct. I got my anime of the year last season when I called it in the first episode of last season, and I'm telling you, this show is going to be great. Unless they drop the ball. I mean, you see what I saw what Cloverworks did on the Bunny Girl movie, so I never really get my hopes up high, but I really loved this first episode. Really did. Yeah, hated this first episode though. This first episode, The Log Horizon, was garbage. Basically talked about nonsense for 24 minutes. And, or, I don't know, not 24 minutes, but 20 minutes. It was so bad. They also got rid of the opening, which I thought was a terrible move on their part. I really liked the opening database, and they had it for like the both first and second season, and they got rid of it here, and I felt like it just fit perfectly with the overarching uh theme of the series. But it's all right. I'm not too upset about it, but it's just like it's just a thing. I don't really watch the opening anyway to any series, so it's all right. But the entire episode was just expository dialogue dump setting up for the season, and it was so boring. Like, oh God, really? Oh, don't forget the flashbacks because those are necessary too. Got me some lovely flashbacks to look at, and all of our characters are back, but they're super uninteresting in this first episode. They really don't have a lot to say in terms of like what's going on in the world at the moment, and like the atmosphere is certain through like their expressions and stuff, but none of them really have anything of contribution to say. Like they're moving forward in the plot a little bit, but very slightly to the point where like I think this first episode literally could have been scrapped and we just skip forward ahead to like the actual destruction of the round table and then look at the aftermath. That's what I think this season should have focused on. But we're starting from ground level and we're going in order because why not? Uh, if I had to rate this specific episode in particular, it'd be around like a 2 or 3. I just did not like that one at all. Uh, World Witches Hashin Shimasu. I had no idea what I was going in to when I watched this, and like the first 5 minutes, which is literally all I watched, was them in a bedroom with scantily shot, uh, I guess cuts that were literally of them talking about nothing. They were talking about nothing, and it was super boring to watch, and all the girls are just really boring and generic, and there's nothing really to say here. It's just kind of a smaller side show where it's just in the backlog of most people's lists, and that's fine. But there's nothing really of worth I can draw from what I watched because like it was very boring and also it's not engaging at all. Like I literally didn't get to a part where I understood what the show was about because I lost interest at that point. I just lost interest. Redo of Healer is an interesting show. This one's stirring up a bunch of controversy in the community at the moment. Uh, Basically, I got through the first episode and it was all right. I feel like maybe the okay, so the whole concept of this show is kind of just new to an extent. I don't know what to say. Like there is a censored and uncensored version of this show, which for the untrained eye can mean various things, but I think we both know where that leads. But this show is about a revenge story of this guy, Kaeru, going on his revenge on this pink girl, and I think that the dialogue is really lazy and really light novelish, which I think this is. Yeah, it's a light novel, so it's it's lazy. It's really it's I don't know how to say this. It's like naive in a sense to expect us to understand where this guy's coming from with such little reason to, and also he's just so unlikable that we just don't get to understand him that much. Like we get backstory, but it's just still not justifiable sometimes. Like backstory is fine if it leaves impact, but this they did like such gruesome backstory, but it left no impression on me at all. So Like I feel nothing for him, and I think that what he's doing is vile, even though the actions done to him were vile. I just can't get behind it because the backstory was so terrible in this first episode that it just seems negligible. Um, Characters are boring, I guess. We just get your basic sadistic pink-haired waifu, of course, and like none of them are like really out there in terms of fantasy. It's just kind of your basic fantasy world where everyone's sort of wearing the same clothes and attire. It's not really not really anything special. I feel like maybe after half an episode, after in the second episode I watch this, I'll be done. But we'll see. Maybe I like watching these OP protagonist shows because this guy is just it's just gonna be an OP protag show where this guy is completely gonna dominate everybody and get his revenge eventually by the end, and it's not gonna be satisfying because like it's just these types of shows where he just plows through every single facet of the show, and then the climax is him reaching someone he has to actually try on, is not very engaging. And you know, it's just the same story over and over again. And just because there's a little bit of edge to this show, like it's a little bit edgy, if you wanna get real cool, right? It's like borderline edgy. It's just not even. It's childless. It's childishly edgy. Is that the way to say it? It's it's basically something. This is what a child would consider edgy, like Mirai Nikki is more edgy than this show, and that's saying something, right? Or Elfen Lied is more edgy than this show, so that's saying something, right? Um, Bungo Stray Dogs Wan is a show about Bungo Stray Dogs if the characters were actually stray dogs, and that's it. Well, at least in what I watched, like I watched like 2 minutes. I've never even seen Bungo Stray Dogs. I just wanted to watch to see what this little chibi version was about, and the first like episode to in my eyes was just like Bungo Stray Dogs as if they were stray dogs. And that's it for the entire season, except for this show that I plan on watching later. But this show is coming out on the 25th, and it's way too late to be watching something by the 25th, so I'll just watch this on my own, and you'll have to live without me explaining what I thought about it, because there's like 50 other people on YouTube that go over seasonals, and ugh, I don't, oh God, I'm so tired. I did this all on one take, so was it worth it? No. Yes. Maybe. I don't know. Uh, let's just go over what I thought was the top picks for the season that I think should turn out pretty well based on how they started. Wonder Egg Priority, Mushoku Tensei, and Skate Infinity, all pretty satisfying shows to watch their first episode of. I think potential in Skate Infinity is very limited. Um, I think that Mushoku Tensei has potential, but also has potential to become your basic or have the problem of your basic isekai leading you to stagnation in the overall character department because, you know, defining your main character as a 34-year-old NEET kind of limits the ability to have sort of a relatability to the world, I should say, even if he's literally born in it in the plot, like my overall um connection to the character can only go so far, especially if they're literally not from that world, right? Like how many isekais do you actually get attached to the character and relate to them? In the current world they dominate. Not many characters, right? Unless they're so absurdly like specific, like Kazuma from uh what's it called? From Konosuba. That is an very specific type of character, and this is a very specific type of character, but in a different way. It's sort of this type of character in this show is broad enough to make it where it's not relatable to the setting of it, and I think that it could drop off by the midsection very hard if it doesn't advance beyond what it currently is. And Wonder Egg Priority is just Wonder Egg Priority. It's great. But you know, I've seen Cloverworks drop the ball before, so I've seen every studio drop the ball before, except for like maybe Ghibli. But even Ghibli has some weaker movies that I don't like. But hey, I think that overall this is looking pretty great for what it presented in the first episode. So definitely something to look out for here. And that is gonna be it for this season's impressions list. I am very tired, and yeah. Thanks for watching though.